Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Mr. Rogues. In this video we spotlight the forgotten supervillain, the House of Shadows. Throughout the decades, countless vile knaves have reared their ugly mugs to pester our beloved superheroes. Some of these dastardly rogues have gone on to stand among the most infamous fictional villains in pop culture history, while others have completely vanished into obscurity. In this episode of Forgotten Supervillains, we spotlight the House of Shadows. The House of Shadows, also known as the Dweller in the Shadows, made its first appearance in Strange Tales 120, published in 1964. The story, a Doctor Strange backup feature simply titled The House of Shadows, was written by Stan Lee and penciled by Steve Ditko. In it, a TV network is doing a highly publicized live show about a supposed haunted house on the outskirts of New York. Alan Stevens, the reporter, will spend the evening inside the house, keeping contact with the viewers and the crew outside through a microphone. Meanwhile, the crew will film the outside of the house. Stevens' goal is to actually disprove that the house is haunted, documenting everything he experiences or doesn't experience into the mic. A large crowd of people gather outside as well, curious about this strange little stunt. Speaking of strange, Doctor Strange shows up too, intending to observe the event as he suspects that the house may in fact be genuinely haunted. As Stevens enters the building, Strange leaves his physical form, attempting to follow unnoticed as an astral projection. But somehow he can't pass into the structure, being denied access. The good doctor now knows for sure that something is amiss with the old cottage, and thus employ his all-seeing eye instead. With this amulet, he's able to gaze right into the house and keep a track of Stevens' movements. At first everything seems fine, but then the reporter sees something horrifying, and Strange can see it too. The doctor decides to intervene and forces the crowd aside with a spell, leaving him room to approach the door. Once inside, Strange discovers that the reporter has been swallowed by the House of Shadows, and it is revealed to us what the two men saw earlier. The house itself is alive. Turns out, it's not really a house at all, but an entity from another dimension. This being has come to our world to observe humans, hiding under the guise of a haunted house, so that none would learn the truth. The house appears to harbor ill will towards humans, and the doctor thus deems it unsafe for it to remain. After forcing the release of Stevens, Strange banishes the thing back to where it came from. We didn't see this bizarre entity again for a long time, until it finally returned 16 years later in 1980. This took place in issue 5 of Rom, the Space Knight, of all places. The story, titled A House is Not a Home, was written by Bill Mantlo and penciled by Sal Buscema. While fleeing his hated arch-enemies, the Dire Wraiths, Rom and his two human companions, Brandy Clark and Steve Jackson, take refuge inside an abandoned house. There they decide to rest for the night and hide from their pursuers. However, during said night, Rom dreams about macabre things taking place in the house. Premonitions he has. They feature a strange cloaked man fighting the very house itself. Rom soon understands that this is the house's past and that it is alive. The house then attempts to devour Rom's friends, and that's when the Space Knight begins to fight back. We also learn that it was Rom's very arch foes, the Dire Wraiths, who accidentally released the house from its dimension, allowing for its return. Not equipped to deal with supernatural threats, the Man of Metal instead settled for a cruder method, using his advanced weaponry to burn the house to a cinder. Whatever's left is then sent back to its world. This could have been the last we ever saw of the old Dweller in the Shadows, but 12 years later in 1992, it appeared here on Earth yet again. This took place in a short tale published in Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Annual No. 2. This time around, the house has taken on a different appearance, posing as the top floor of a newly opened, plush downtown penthouse. All tenants on the top floor soon vanish into thin air, one by one, and the building gets a reputation of being haunted. Suspecting that its old foe is behind it, Doctor Strange sends his apprentice Rinthra, the Emerald Manbull, to deal with it. His first solo mission, Rinthra passes with flying colors, and once again the House of Shadows was banished back to its home. Apparently it never found a way back this time, as this was the last we ever saw of the entity. It has of course not shown up in anything outside the comics either. So, Spooktober is finally upon us, and just like I said, all villains this entire month will be horror related in one way or another. As a fan of both supervillains and horror, I'm really excited about this and hope you are as well. I decided to start off with this really strange rogue, requested by viewer Scott Free a while back. He said the House of Shadows would be right up my alley, and Scott, I guess you just know me really well. Because damn, this is just the type of stuff I like. The House of Shadows is like something straight out of the SCP Foundation. So we've got got an entity here that looks like a house, but it's not an actual house. From the two first stories, I get the impression that the entity just happens to be in the shape of a house, like it's a coincidence. But the third story implies that it can shapeshift, as it's taken on the guise of a completely different type of house. So it just takes the shape of houses for some reason? Why? Why houses? Why not something else? No, I don't like that. I like it way more in the two first stories, where the creature actually looks like a house. That feels weirder and more absurd, yet at the same time makes more sense. It's also more unique than just another shapeshifter. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the thing happens to look like a house. What a great camouflage too, when you're spying on Earth. It's such a freaky concept that an ordinary looking house could turn out to be something so sinister. A house that freaking eats you if you enter it. Like I said, SCP material. The thing also reminds me a lot of the Shining novel, where the hotel itself is actually alive and wants to absorb the Torrance family. Now, as a character, there ain't a whole lot to the House of Shadows. It's mainly just a really cool concept, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I do like the fact that it tries to negotiate with both Doctor Strange and Rom. When they attack it, the house tries to play to their supposed sense of superiority over humans. It sees itself as superior to humans, and assumes that these two powerful beings does so as well. Thus, it tries to play on this, telling Strange it won't kill him, just the rest of us, and suggests to Rom that they band together against humanity. Of course, this completely fails, as the house is a pretty poor judge of character. It's also just a panic reaction by the house. It's desperately trying to save itself. I like this. It gives the house some personality, and also shows that it can feel fear. We never really find out why the house wants to devour us all, and frankly that's something I like as well, as it makes the creature scarier. It's something we can't understand and can't reason with. I also really like how the house operates, luring people into its jaws instead of seeking victims out. Just how it plans to kill all humanity this way doesn't make sense, of course, but who cares? I feel there's so much more you could do with this character, so many freaky and surreal stories you could tell. It's a giant missed opportunity to let the house fade into obscurity. Here's hoping some writer with a lot of wild and crazy imagination someday brings it back. So there you have it. That's the story of forgotten supervillain, the House of Shadows, or the Dweller in the Shadows. Thank you, Scott, for introducing me to this weird and unique character. And as always, remember, Arkham Asylum awaits you in the next video.